Okay, so what I tried to do is work through this thing where we sort of look at a project, examine what the tax equity investors get, what the sponsors equity investors get as one scenario. Then what I actually added on was how would an asset rotation investor get paid, and if they sold 45% of if the sponsors equity sold 45% of their cash flows off to another investor. Now again, the whole point here is that if you look at this, instead of taking APV where we had unlevered equity and tax shield and we said they don't sell this, now we really have a situation where for project financing, what they can do is divvy up and sell off part of the cash flows to finance the project. But in a sense, every one of these three things, the tax equity, the asset rotation, and the what's left over, the sponsor's equity position, all of those are in effect equity positions because there's no promised amounts being made for any one of those. It's all dependent upon what the flows of the project are. So effectively, they are in fact equity, just different types of equity investors are shown here in terms of divvying up what the cash flows. So this is an example of how, in a sense, residual flows, where we start off with tax equity, then we talk sponsors equity, and then they could sell off some of this flows to the asset rotation investors. Anyway, so what we're going to do is next we're going to talk about EDP and why they do this and go that. So, but I thought this would be a quick introduction about how do we calculate the IRR for tax equity investors, for asset rotation investors, and finally for sponsors equity investors when all of those things are there. Thanks.